Hello, welcome back to the Watford Way, where today we're joined by Sam from the Whole City Fan Central YouTube channel. Sam, thank you so much for coming on to our channel. How are you, first of all?
I'm good. A little bit of a bad weekend for Hull City yet again, but
Yes.
I am well.
Good to hear you. Looking forward to the Christmas period. Obviously, lots of football to be played in the Championship under a new manager for yourselves in Ruben Celes. The Watford game will be his first in charge. Talk to us a bit, really, about the past year and a half, 2 years at Hull City, because as we just discussed prior to the recording, last season was fantastic for you guys, finishing just outside of them playoff positions. I think you were 3 points behind in the end on the final day, which must have been excruciating for you. But going from seventh in the Championship to now rock bottom in 24th. What went wrong, Sam? What's gone wrong in the past 12 months or so at Hull City?
So the biggest catalyst of what went wrong was the rash decision to sack Liam Rosenior by our owner Adjan Ilajali. He did a fantastic job when we came to the club. We was 21st at the time, managed to drag us out of a relegation battle, and then the season afterwards got us up to, as you said, seventh, 3 points off the playoffs, coming into the final day of the season. Did fantastic for us, was an attractive coach, bringing in really good youth signings, loan-ins. I mean, we got Fabio Carvalho on loan into the Championship under
Oh,
him.
what a fantastic play he was. I have to say, when you guys come to Vicarage Road, he was definitely your most talented player on the pitch that day. It was really impressive, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was all looking up. I mean, he got a contract extension in that December of that season, last season, and so it looked like, oh, this is going to be the coach for the future. He's going to take us to the Premier League, high times, and then a bit of a rocky end to the season where we maybe should have picked up points where we didn't do. A lot of injury problems last season, but there always is. And then a few days after the season ends, he's sacked. A little bit of a confusing one. Adrian then comes out and confesses his sins, going, he's not playing the style of football that I wanted. And maybe we are looking into the things behind the scenes where they probably weren't looking the best, especially with our owner being such a hands-on man that he is and very stuck in his ways, wants to play the players that he wants. He wants to play the style of football that he wants. And
Right.
with all of this, he wants the results, which haven't been happening since, because he managed to sign Tim Volter as the new manager, which that has not gone really to plan at all. Fantastic manager over in the German second division. He was in charge of Hamburg for about 3 seasons, got them into the playoffs every season, so close to getting back to the Bundesliga, averaging over 2 goals per game in his managerial career for Hamburg, which is
Okay.
quite a feat. And then coming to Hull and managed to average out less than 1 goal per game
Wow.
at Hull City. Three wins all season, one win at home, meaning Sheffield Wednesday have more wins at the MKM Stadium this season than Hull do, which is another fun fact. So yeah, it's been a rocky patch under Tim Volta. He lost the dressing room. Players weren't wanting to play football for him. They were lost on the pitch. His style of play just, it wasn't one that was going to work in the Championship. It was so elaborate, so in his own head, and so zany of a managerial choice to play this style of football that he didn't change it at all. He didn't change formation. He just expected the players to play the style of football that he wanted. And it didn't work. And Adjan kept on to him for far too long, where now we are rock bottom of the Championship, having the last 2 games being caretaker managed by Andy Dawson. And then, as you said, Ruben Sellés will be taking charge of this game for the Watford game, being his first game in charge of Hull City. And things off the field look positive finally again.
Okay.
But it's just going to take a little bit of time, I think, for the results on the pitch to come, after having the first few months of the season written off, basically.
Wow, interesting stuff from you, Sam, there. And actually, I went into the archives of your YouTube channel last night as I was doing some research for this preview today. And obviously, your current owner joined a couple of years ago. As you said, he's a very elaborate character. He likes to speak to the media. He's very open about Hull City. I was reading some articles about how he has his private jet and is going back and forth between Turkey and the UK. What are the fans' thoughts on the owner and how he runs the football club generally? Because from what you've said there, it seems at the moment you're all feeling quite positive with this new appointment. Are you all behind the ownership and their model of operating at the moment?
Well, Hull City have had a very bad history of owners. We've had owners put padlocks on the gates, stopping the fans from getting in. We've had recently the Alams and their terrible reign trying to turn the club into a brand and sell players days before the deadline day and stuff like that. Really wanting to see the club fall off. So Adrian has been labelled as the saviour for Hull City. He is a good owner. He's put on free travel for the fans to away games. He's gone into his pockets multiple times to sign players to the point where we're breaching with FFP. And he's a good owner. It's just the character of him himself, which is maybe testing a few fans, especially under the stressful time with Tim Volter and him really trying to stick to his guns. I think that's one thing that tests a lot of fans is that he sticks to his guns too much. He is very hard to persuade and change. And the way that he runs the club is unlike any other owner that I know in football, where we don't have a director of football.
Wow.
He's recently got rid of his second-hand man after there was some dodgy dealings of him maybe stealing some money from the club. So it's a very interesting way to run a football club, and him being so hands-on himself is very interesting for the fans to maybe get on board with. But on the most part, the fans are very welcome to him. You see Turkish flags all around the stadium.
Yeah.
He
I mean,
puts
I was
on
even looking at your Instagram feed, the Whole City official Instagram page, and I have to say at least 50% of the comments were probably from like your Turkish fan base. You've got a huge, Whole City Turkish fan base, which is great to see. And obviously that must be from his influence. I think you mentioned in the video I watched of yourself actually, where you were talking about him when he joined the club, saying that he owns some media companies over there. I think you said he owns some TV companies as well. So yeah, I think you called him the Simon Cowell of Turkey. So he's
yeah.
clearly a well-liked individual. So yeah, it's interesting to get your stance on him there. In terms of Ruben Sellers, obviously he's the main man we're here to talk about today. And I'll just read out a sentence or so from your club statement. And it says, Hull City have appointed Reading boss Ruben Sellers as their new head coach on a 2.5-year deal. The 41-year-old Spaniard replaces Tim Volter after the Tigers sacked the German last week following a run of 9 games without a win. Yeah, 9 games without a win. Was that a struggle to watch for you?
Yeah, I mean, it still is because we lost this weekend again. So it's 6 straight losses for the club now. So
Yes.
a very, very tough time to watch the football with the off-field activity now in the past few weeks being so positive after the sacking of Volta. The on-field stuff not reflecting that. It's a bit of a conflict of interests, but it's certainly a tough time to be a Hull City fan.
And it was a 1-0 defeat to Blackburn yesterday, wasn't it? Was Sellers at the game? Was he watching the game from the stands? Do you know?
Yes, he was in Adrian's box up in the West Stand. He got a little bit of an introduction before the game. Of course, with the weather how it was yesterday, he didn't manage to make it onto the field to say hello to the fans, but he was there in attendance, and I'm sure he saw the big task that he's got to take on.
Yeah, you talk about the weather. Actually, I'm just looking out my window now, and the rain is still coming down thick and fast. It's very windy down here near Watford, so I'm sure it's probably even worse up where you are, Sam. In terms of Sellers, of course, he's a unknown quantity to me as a Watford fan. Obviously, he did quite well at Reading this season. I believe they're a 6th in the table in League One at the moment. In terms of Sellers, his style of play, his formation, how much do you know at the moment? Because as we just discussed, he's not actually taken charge of a whole City match yet. His first match in charge will be against Watford. How much are you aware of his style of play, formation, and yeah, give us a bit of insight into your new man.
So he officially takes charge of the club a few days before the game, so he won't have a lot of time to prepare the players. But going back and looking at what he's done at Reading, of course, it's a big task he did at Reading with their ownership situation, their off-field activities, him under transfer embargoes, point deductions, and all sorts of stuff like that to keep Reading in League One and then furtherly take them up to 6th place when he left is a huge task. And hopefully he can pull Hull out of the devastating hole that we're in at the moment. His style of play, it is a little bit of an interesting one compared to what Volta's was. So Tim Volta, he liked to put strikers in defence, and your centre backs were running up forward for
Wow.
the strikers,
Okay.
and he didn't like to use the midfield. So that was Tim Volta. Whereas Ruben Sellés, he likes to not use wingers. So we are expecting that it could be some form of a 4-2-2-2 or a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, something around that. We know he likes to play 2 strikers and that he likes to play quite a few plays through the midfield. So that's the extent of what we can say on the formation front. Of course, Hull City have got a few injury problems at the moment themselves, albeit the 2-star men for Hull City, who are both wingers, are out on the sidelines, which maybe bodes itself well for Ruben Sellés' first decision to put out a starting 11 for Hull. But it will be an interesting game for him to put out a competitive starting lineup. We know that he likes to play his press quite high. To quote Ruben Sellés himself, if you defend further away from your goal, the chances are you're not going to concede. So he wants to get the midfield to press on the ball. He wants to maybe play a bit more of a high defensive line, which is something that the players are a little bit used to under Tim Volta, and obviously looking at last season under Liam Rosenior.
Wow, interesting stuff. And actually, I think that might benefit Watford now you've said that, in terms of Sellers playing that high press, because Watford do have a few pacey wide plays. You might have heard of Kwadwo Bar, Georgie Shafatatse, Rocco Vata, are all very technical wingers or tens who can play in Tom Cleverley's system. So yeah, that might actually benefit us in that way. In your last game, I highlighted 2 players who I quite like personally myself, in Abu Kamara and Casey Palmer. Is there any other Hull City players who, to Watford fans watching this preview, would highlight as maybe players to watch or players to keep an eye on during the match?
I mean, there's always an eye to be kept on Louis Coyle, our skipper, a man from Hull himself, huge links with the fan base. The fans love him. And he always just seems to put his body on the line for the club, which is something you've got to really commend. I don't think there's ever been a game where he's not had half of his shirt covered in mud, throwing himself at the ball. I mean, last season he was on the sideline on 2 different periods where I believe he broke his nose or cut his head open or something like that. So a real fan favourite. And speaking to opposition fans for this season, they've been impressed with him so far this season. So hopefully he doesn't prove me wrong on Wednesday. Other than that, there's not too many good players at the moment in the squad. Strikers wise, we might as well not have a striker. Goalkeeper, our goalkeeper is doing a fantastic job in Ivo Panda, the Croatian youngster. He's very, very good at pulling out fantastic saves. Maybe not so good in determining where his passes go, as he has been caught out a few times on that. But he is a fantastic shot stopper, and he's probably another one to watch out for if you're a Watford fan.
Okay, interesting stuff. Now, Sam, I want to turn the focus to Watford and get your opinions on my team. I don't know how much you've seen of Watford this season, but obviously we're having a fantastic time at the moment under Tom Cleverley. Obviously, our game at the weekend was postponed, but if we'd won that, we'd still be in the playoff positions as it stands. What have been your thoughts on the Hornets so far this season? And are there any Watford players who you've seen who you think will pose a threat to that whole City back line?
I mean, as you said, the entire Watford forward line they've got pace, they've got skills, which is something that we haven't really seen trouble Hull City so much this season. We haven't seen a full forward line full of pace and technical players. So it'll be interesting to see that line up against the Hull defense that's been somewhat okay this season. Watford themselves, as you say, you're up in the thick of it in the playoff race. I believe that we made sure that he wasn't in the playoffs after losing to Blackburn.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think that was our fault. I'm sorry on that front.
That's
Um,
okay. I can forgive you. I can forgive you.
yeah. So you've had some fantastic results this season. You picked up what was that big victory that you got?
It was 6-2 away at Sheffield Wednesday, I think you're referring to.
Yes, that
Yeah.
big one. A huge win, that 6-2 away at Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday, they've just had our number all season in all competitions. So a fantastic season, really, to be a Watford fan after going off maybe a few poor seasons in the Championship to really have a season where you can maybe think about going back to the Premier League where you wasn't there that long ago.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the aim ultimately. I think for Watford fans and myself, my expectations this season were firmly mid-table. I thought between maybe 10th and 15th is where Watford would finish, and I think under Tom Cleverley, what we wanted was stability under our owner Gino Pozzo. Because actually, comparing the owners of both clubs, our owner Gino Pozzo is very reserved. He very rarely speaks to the media. In fact, last year was the first time he spoke openly to English press in nearly a decade, which was absolutely crazy. So yeah, you certainly have a more vocal owner yourself. But yeah, as you say, going back to the Premier League is the ultimate aim for us. We were in the Premier League actually for 5 consecutive years up until COVID time, and that kind of messed up all our finances, and a few dodgy transfer deals here and there meant we're languishing back in the Championship for the past couple of seasons. But yeah, as you say, hopefully fingers crossed this season we can finish in them all important playoff positions. Right, Sam, of course, as our guest, we need to ask you for your score prediction. Are you going to the game first of all?
I will be at the game, yes, season ticket holder in the stand.
Good
Um,
stuff, good stuff. What are
yeah,
you thinking then? Ruben Sellés' first game, a new manager bounce perhaps?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that we will snap the 6 straight losses, and I'm going to go maybe optimistically, maybe a bit deluded for a 1-1 draw. I
Okay.
think that Hull and Watford over previous encounters, we certainly have had an even bout where it's been a few 0-0 draws and maybe a few like 1-0 wins in times previous. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I don't think that we've got the real target up top to get the goals. But I think defensively, under Ruben Sellés, I think we can maybe prevent the Watford attack.
Okay, interesting stuff. Now, in my head, I'm going back to the last time we visited Hull City. And if you remember, actually, Sam, in that game, Wesley Hoot, who's not actually at Watford now, has gone over to Saudi Arabia to earn that sweet, sweet money. But yeah, he scored a goal from basically the halfway line. It was a sensational strike. I'm not entirely sure what your goalkeeper at the time was doing. Can you remember that game, Sam? Because yeah, it was a sensational goal by Wesley Hoot.
I can remember that game. You've just brought back the memories of Ryan Alsop, which I'm sure the
Yes.
Hull City fans alike will have a little wince in themselves of the Ryan Alsop days of last season, as maybe wasn't the best goalkeeper in the setup. So yeah, I'd firmly put that one on a Ryan Alsop mistake, but albeit to your man who's now cashing in the money.
He has certainly, yeah. He actually follows my Instagram account, so thank you very much to Wesley Hoot. But yeah, going back to my score prediction, I've got to be positive. I've got to be confident. I think what's going to play in your favour is firstly, of course, the new manager bounce. I think that happens at most clubs nowadays. There's always an uptick in performance and hopefully results when a new manager comes in. But for Watford, actually, Sam, we've really struggled away from home. Vicarage Road has been our fortress primarily this season. I think we're 15 games unbeaten now at Vicarage Road since Tom Cleverley took charge of Watford towards the end of last season. And we've only picked up 2 victories away from home, one on the opening day against Millwall, and obviously the one you referred to a few minutes ago, the 6-2 win away at Sheffield Wednesday. So we have struggled on the road. I'm always the optimist, so I always edge on the verge of a Watford victory. And I'm actually going to go with the same result we saw last time, a 2-1 Watford win. I think you'll score. I think you'll score first. But I think Watford having the additional rest, obviously with our game postponed, I think that could potentially play into our favour. So I'll go with a 2-1 Watford away victory. Sam, thank you very much for coming on. It's much appreciated. Where can people find you on socials and on YouTube?
So on YouTube, you can find me, Hull City Fan Central. Same place over on Twitter.
Fantastic stuff. Sam, thank you very much. It's much appreciated. And yes, we'll be here live on Wednesday evening on the channel for a live match watch long for Ruben Celes' first game in charge of the Tigers. So Sam, once again, thank you for coming on, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.